What is going on, guys? We are back playing some more Surviving with Mekanism, and today, guys, we're going to be messing around with the resistive heater, and we're going to be using it to assist in the heating of our thermal evaporation plant. So we set up the thermal evaporation plant right back there a couple episodes ago, and then the last episode we set up the 4x ore processing, which was a lot of fun, but the minute we flip this basic injection factory into gear, the minute it starts processing anything, this hydrogen chloride is going to drop like no other. Now, the reason behind that is even with full upgrades in this, you need a lot of hydrogen chloride production coming in to be able to sustain constant ore processing, even if you're only using one of these. So it is very important that we increase the brine production because that is where the bottleneck is going to occur. We can set up easily a bunch of electrolytic separators to get all the hydrogen that we need for this, and we can get all the oxygen we need for the purifying factory, but I'd prefer to not have to set up a bunch of mediocre thermal evaporation plants. So the best thing to do is to max out the one that we have right now. So we're not going to be worrying about maxing out height today, but maxing out heat is a very big issue because right now we only have the solar panels on top of it. We have all 4 of them, but those are not doing nearly enough to get it to a high enough heat level. So we're going to look at the heat level it's at right now, and of course the biome does relate a little bit to it, but a way to get around that, it cooling off when it's nighttime, the biomes affecting it, whether or not you have the solar panels on the top, would be using heaters. Now, they're really easy to set up, really easy to use, so I would urge you guys to use these. You can combine them with the solar generators on top of the plant, but you can use these alone if you really want to. You have a couple options. You have the option of the resistive heater, which is what we're going to be using today. You also have the option of the Fuelwood heater, and I'm a little hesitant to mention this, but you also did before, I don't know if it's still a thing, I haven't tested it, but I'd just like to let you guys know, before it was an option to use the heat generator. A lot of people thought that it might be a bug. I never actually read if there was any official statement on it, but the heat generator does not specify that it's supposed to create heat energy. It's just supposed to produce energy, whereas these two say heat energy. But you used to be able to pull the heat energy that was produced out of the heat generator out just like these other 2 heaters, and you only needed to cover 4 sides of the heat generator to actually get it to fully heat up one of the thermal evaporation plants. So I would urge you not to use that if it's still an option, as it is kind of pretty cheaty, not cheaty, but it's not as much fun. So we're going to be using the resistive heater though. The Fuelwood heater is another option. And the one thing that's nice about a Fuelwood heater that I'll cover really quickly if you want to use it is that if you need 2 of these, which I suspect you would, you can use one, but it won't get it to max heat. If you need 2, you only need to pull the heat energy out of one. If you have them adjacent to each other, they will actually transfer through these blocks into the other one. So you only need to actually pull out of one of them instead of out of both of them. So now we actually need to get into some crafting. I've been rambling for a very long time about all this different stuff, and I prefer to go through it when we're actually messing around with it. So I actually want to dump all of this stuff back into its respective bins right now, just because it'll help keep things a little bit neater. So let's get all this stuff back in there real quick. Okay, so we actually don't have that much to craft today, which is why we are finally going to be making the jetpack. It's also because we're going to be using the jetpack to get up to where we need to go today. So that's going to be what we're crafting right here. Really easy to craft. So we're going to be crafting the typical basic gas tank. So we got that. Then that's going to go in the center, and it's just going to require one control circuit, some steel, and 3 tin. And we're not going to upgrade this yet to make it armored, but there we have the jetpack. We're going to be able to fill it up with, I want to say, 24,000 hydrogen, which we will do when we go back there. And now we can actually work on crafting the resistive heater. Now, you only need 1 resistive heater. The amount of power you're putting into it will fluctuate based on what you're using to power the plant already. So because we have 4 of the solar panels, solar generators, whatever you'd like to call them, on top of it, we're not going to need that much power going into the resistive heater. So we're going to discuss, I want to say it's 125 joules per tick going in there. If you had none, I think it'd be 450 joules per tick. But we're also going to discuss some kind of interesting ways in which you can get around the power requirements for this. So right now we're actually going to be crafting the method through which we're going to transfer the heat, which is the basic thermodynamic conductor. Now, if you look at the description on this, it's capable of transferring heat from Mekanism. You only need the basic thermodynamic conductor no matter what heat source you are using. Anything more and it's overkill, it's useless, so just stick with this. It takes 2 steel and 1 copper. You'll pretty much notice that anytime you're using a pipe, conductor, tube, anything like that in Mekanism, whatever you want to call it, it's always going to be for the basic ones, 2 steel and then something in the center. I'm sure you guys already knew that though. And the last thing we're going to grab out is the stuff needed for crafting the resistive heater. So it's actually not that expensive, and you only need one, so I would really suggest that you guys do this. Even if you're not running out of brine, eventually you will, so you might as well start early. So we had to craft the initial energy tablet. Then we need to craft this superheating element, which we haven't seen before, which is going to be a steel casing, 4 copper, and 4 redstone. So it's relatively cheap too. That's one of the first times I think we've actually used copper outside of crafting the thermal evaporation plant. But now we are going to be crafting the full resistive heater, which is going to be 4 tin, 3 redstone, and the other 2 components. And there we go. So now we should be set to go with everything. I do have a lot of universal cable because we're going to talk about how you can actually go up to the top of your plant and take the power that you would normally be getting from the solar generators up there and use them to power the resistive heater. A lot of people don't know that you can do that because they think the power from those is going into the multi-block structure itself, because that's the whole idea behind it. That's what it's supposed to be doing. That's actually not the case. So you can still take the power from those and use it, and we're not even going to need all the power we get from those for the resistive heater. So we're just going to be gaining pretty much just a net gain of power today. One thing that's funny that I wanted to point out too is if we look over here, I don't know if this is a recent bug. I just updated Mekanism in hopes that it would help a little bit with the random lag we get because of the different textures in here and how they look for multi-block structures when you build stuff, according to you guys at least. But this right here should be pulling brine out of this valve, and it looks a little bit interesting. So I think it's still functioning right now, but yeah, I just thought I'd point that out. And I put upgrades in all these machines back here, so it should be running a little bit better. But we have a basic gas tank right now, or right here, and it is filled with hydrogen. So we are going to throw this in, and we're going to allow this to fill up with hydrogen while we talk about the resistive heater. And then we're going to come back, we're going to grab this, and we're going to use it to fly all the way up and get to the top of this setup over here to look at the heat levels and pull some power down. So I don't actually know exactly where we want to go up. We could probably just go up right here. Okay guys, so we're going to start by placing the resistive heater down right here, and we are going to have to rotate it because the main idea is going to be the power comes down right here and goes in, and then we're going to pull out the heat energy and put it into this valve right over here. So should be able to rotate it like that, and that should be good. Okay, so we're going to discuss a lot of what's going on inside here once we get the power in here and get it to start running. But a nice thing is you can see down here all the different types, and you can actually flip it in the actual UI itself to see the usage of all the different types of energy. So if you are combining this with other mods, you'll be able to tell the rates on those. It doesn't just show the joules per tick. So it is nighttime out right now, so I guess this is actually a really good time to show why we're going to be using this heater. So if we fly up here and take a look at the controller right now, you can see that it is dropping. The temperature is already very low. It takes a very long time for the thermal evaporation plant to heat up if it's very large. If it's smaller, it'll heat up a little bit faster, but if it's very large, it can take a long time to heat up. And so, you know, having nighttime where it's cooling down repeatedly, if you're not always sleeping, can be a little bit of an issue because it's never going to reach its maximum potential. So we're going to be using the resistive heater to get around this so that during the daytime, it'll be at full heat, and when it becomes nighttime, the heater will take over a lot of the job and it'll stay at maximum heat. So I mentioned before that you can use the power from these solar generators, of course when it's daytime, to power the resistive heater. So eventually I will add a little bit of a buffer because we're not going to be using all of this power, and then hopefully that buffer will be able to hold it over for nighttime, and I'll do my best to actually sleep so that it's not that much of an issue. But we can throw down the universal cable, and we're going to have to try and not go past or right in front of the controller so that we can access it, but we can bring it down over here, and then we're just gonna have to run it around the back here, and we do have to flip these so that we can actually get the power from them. Let's rotate it. Oh gosh, we need to be on, hopefully we can rotate it there. We might actually have to break this to be able to rotate it. That is a little bit unfortunate. Oh no, we can rotate it like that. I was trying to shift click. Okay, so we can rotate it like that. Okay, so we can run these around, and we might as well just run it like this and bring it over and connect it right there. Okay, so now we can bring it down and we should have no issue. And I guess we can come up here a little bit later and take a look at the heat, but can we get down? No, we can't. Okay, so we're gonna have to run these all the way down. So Okay, I was able to get them pretty far down before actually falling too much. Okay, so we're going to run these all the way down right into here, and this should start working. So you can see a little bit of a change in the color. It gets a little bit of a reddish tint at the bottom there, and you can see that the temp is increasing right now. It's using 100 joules per tick, and right now if we were to go 125, click that on, it goes to 125 joules per tick. So you pretty much just type in the usage that you want in here, and you just click the check mark and you're good to go. So it does take a little bit of, experimenting to see what you're going to need, depending on where you're located. Of course, I said that we might only need 125 joules per tick, but that also depends on what biome you're in, how many of the solar generators you actually have working up top, all those different things. So if we come over here now, we need to actually get the heat into this. So we're going to take the basic thermodynamic conductor and we're going to run it over, and then we're going to run it up. So now this should be transferring the heat energy into here, assuming that that valve right there is working. So I think what we're going to do is allow this to heat up a little bit. I'm going to try and figure out the exact amount that we need off camera, and then I'll hop back and we can check out the heat levels inside the plant itself. Okay guys, so we are back. Now I have set the resistive heater to 450 joules per tick. Now I believe eventually you should be able to lower this a little bit just so that you can, find a temperature you can maintain it at, but ours is still heating, so it'll take a little bit of time for me to figure out the exact temperature that we're going to need it at and the exact amount of power I need to be inserting and using to get to that. But this is able to maintain 450 joules per tick easy, just because we've got all of those advanced solar generators hooked up to this, and it's daytime out right now. So if we go back up here, we can see our system is heating up very nicely. Obviously, it's going to take a very long time to fully heat up, but it should now stay heating at night, even if it does slow down a significant amount. And then when it becomes daytime again, it'll just continue heating on top of that until it finally reaches its max temperature. Now, it'll be probably, I think it's 3.3 kilokelvin, and it will produce a significant amount of brine. We're not even able to see how much it's producing right now, just because we're not even using up brine right now, because all the system downstairs are completely capped out on the things that they can hold, whether it's the brine or the chloride or the hydrogen chloride, I should say, or the chlorine. All of those are capped out since we haven't been using them, and all the storage is full. So we can't actually see the brine produced right now, but eventually I will show you guys what we are producing when this is at its maximum temperature. Probably won't be today because it will take a while to heat up. Okay guys, so before we end the episode today, and I know it will be a little bit short, I do want to again cover a little bit about the Fuelwood heater. We're not actually going to set them up today because we don't need them. You pretty much set them up the exact way that we are setting up the resistive heater, which I just noticed is marked as the quantum Entangloporter right now on Whale. But if you did want to use the Fuelwood heaters, you'd want to use 2 of them to get it to the max temperature, and that's assuming that you're not using any of the advanced solar generators. But if you do use 2 of them, you'd pretty much have one right here, and then you'd have another one right here, and you'd only need to pull out using the thermodynamic conductor out of one of them. And the reason behind that, I mentioned it briefly before, is because any adjacent heater blocks will be able to transfer into whatever heater block is having it pulled out of. So you only need to pull it out of one instead of pulling it out of both. It makes it a little bit easier. It'll save you a little bit on the thermodynamic conductors. Not that they're super expensive anyway, but just a little bit of a tip. And I know the episode was a little bit short today. I apologize for that, guys. I've been working with a lot of stuff recently. Getting ready to go back to school, all that stuff, and we're actually about to hit 5,000 subscribers. So I've been trying to figure out what I want to do for that. Chances are the video is going to be up almost right away when we hit 5,000 subs, which seems to be like it'll be 1 to 2 days from now. So I just want to say, before that even happens, thank you guys so much for the support. And again, I apologize for the short video. I promise the next one will not be this short. But that's going to be it for today, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, please feel free to give it a like, as it does help me out a lot. Also, if you found it entertaining or informative in any way, please feel free to give it a like, and I will talk to you guys later.